Scott just made the point.
Jefferson used to be a lot more secure, not just.
Well, my friends, Europe is in trouble, and soon they may be in real trouble. A floodgate of refugees has opened up all across the continent, from thousands jumping aboard the Channel train in Calais, heading for Britain, to masses of refugees running through cornfields in Hungary. Europe is now face to face with what looks like, and should this flood continue to grow, probably will be their biggest crisis since World War II. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and we'll see if we can make any sense out of all of this. Steve, let's start with you. You know, we Americans have had to sit back and enjoy for decades now our European betters telling us what horrible, insensitive, racist bigots we are for trying to do something about the no less than 25 million illegal immigrants currently in this country. Entire regions of the Southwest are essentially off limits to American citizens due to nightly incursions by heavily armed drug and people smuggling Mexican gangs. And God knows how many American families live in fear along the border as each night entire platoons tramp through their yards and sometimes even their houses. But Steve, here's the thing. Europe is dealing with maybe 1% of those numbers, and they are in full-on panic mode. Can you explain that to our viewers, how we can be such awful, nasty, mean-spirited, cold-hearted, racist bigots when we're basically dealing with 100 times the immigrant problem that they're dealing with?
Well, that's very simple. America is always wrong. That's, there's your explanation.
Thank you very much.
There. We're always evil. We're always racist. So let's leave that where it is and talk about the important thing. This is an invasion of Europe, is what's going on right now. This isn't a case of women and children first, which is what you would expect in a refugee crisis. This isn't even women and children in the middle or even last. This is women and children hardly at all. These are mostly fit young men of military age coming to Europe by the tens of thousands to do Lord knows what. Meanwhile, let's look at Syria, the place where they're coming from by and large right now. And what you have going on is you have a Russian military buildup in Syria. Russia can now use Syria as kind of a spigot. It can turn that spigot on and off to control the refugee flow in and out of Europe. And using this, you better believe that Vladimir Putin is going to get his sanctions lifted after his annexation of Crimea. Meanwhile, you've got 100,000, 200,000, 250,000, whatever the eventual number of refugees turns out to be. I think Germany has said something about agreeing to something like 800,000. They say they need the workers. Okay, they need the workers. What they're going to get is at least 100,000 jihadis out of that number. And so Putin or Assad or both of them will also have the ability to turn jihadis on and off in Europe. So now, instead of a World War III over Ukraine, where Russia invades and takes what it wants, instead you have Russian blackmail to get what they want. We are on the cusp. There are big moves afoot. We are on the cusp of something very new and extremely dangerous.
Steve, that is extremely astute. That's very astute. I hadn't heard anything like that before. That's really profound.
Well, some of it's mine. I borrowed parts from Richard Fernandez, the smartest man in the world, and other parts from John Schindler at 20 Committee.
Well, if only you were an ABC News anchor, you'd be able to take credit for the whole thing. Now, Scott, there does seem to be a major difference in what's happening over there versus what's happening here, however. My experience here in Southern California with Mexican immigrants, both legal and otherwise, is that the vast majority of them, I mean the vast majority of them, are extremely kind, decent, hardworking people who genuinely seem grateful to be here and just want to work. But as you can see from some of these clips here, just a quick glimpse of the European refugee crisis. These people are not kissing the ankles of the Europeans who've given them sanctuary with tears of gratitude in their eyes. In many cases, they're violent, militant, and they're acting more like conquering hordes than humble and grateful refugees. Now, those are refugees on a train, I think, heading to Germany or Britain or something. And, you know, Scotty, in a world where everybody's afraid to actually speak the truth, it needs to be said that many of these militants are Muslim refugees who not only feel entitled to be there, but also feel that they own the place, that the weak and decadent residents of the countries that they're seeking asylum in don't deserve any of it, really have a death wish, and they're just kind of doing them a favor.
And it doesn't take many of those kind of people to create utter chaos. And unfortunately, what we see on TV and what attracts the interest on social media and videos, even, you know, citizen shot videos that get passed around on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, those things tend to focus on the worst parts of whatever's going on. So I never feel confident that I really know about the situation just when I see video like this. I remember seeing back when the Iranians took those hostages, those American hostages, years and years ago, and I remember seeing some coverage that indicated that when the TV cameras came on, the chanting began. And when the TV cameras went off, the chanting stopped. So I'm a little skeptical anytime I see stuff like this. And I think the people that are hurt the worst about this, by this whole phenomenon, are genuine refugees, are people, are women and children who are literally trying to escape the hell on earth that is many of these Muslim-run countries that have a Stone Age ideology that they've carried into government, and they somehow, the elitists live in the lap of luxury while the vast majority of people live as they did before the Middle Ages.
Yeah, well, something's going to change. You know, before these most recent floodgates opened, the European experiment in multiculturalism has been a catastrophe, if you'll pardon the expression, for the indigenous population at the expense of the incoming colonizers. Entire cities in England, France, and Scandinavia are no longer even slightly English, French, or Scandinavian. Now, the American model of the melting pot, where immigrants are assimilated into the larger whole, bringing their cultural strengths with them, enriching all of us, that's produced the most successful nation in the history of the world. Multiculturalism is the antithesis of the melting pot, and it has doomed previously peaceful and generous people to epidemics of rape, violence, and intimidation. It's made citizens prisoners in their own country, refugees from the refugee violence inflicted on them in exchange for their mercy and their decency. Multiculturalism doesn't work. It's a catastrophe. It's killing Europe right before our eyes, and the Democrats are doing everything in their dying power to make sure that the exact same thing happens here, and for the same reason. It's the unearned moral superiority, it's self-hatred, and of course, it's a vote-buying lust for power. We can't stop what's happening over there, but we can stop what's happening over here, so get out those checkbooks and those lawn signs. We got about a year to go. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.